My name is Kayla Monroe, and I'm 31 years old.
6 months ago, I thought my life was on schedule.
Engagement ring on my finger. Venue booked for next spring. A Pinterest board full of dresses and centerpieces I pretended not to care about but secretly checked at midnight.
4 years together with Daniel. 8 months engaged. One fully paid off, 2019, Dodge Challenger, parked outside my apartment that I'd worked my butt off to buy. My one big splurge, my proof that I could set a goal and reach it.
I thought I was marrying a partner. Instead, I found out I was marrying an ultimatum.
It started on a Saturday morning. I was still in pajama shorts and an oversized t-shirt, making coffee and half watching some home renovation show where couples argue about backsplashes when my phone lit up with Daniel's name.
I smiled automatically. That reflex took a while to die. "Hey, you," I answered, cradling the mug in one hand. "You're up early."
All I heard was breathing at first,
Then a broken, wet sound.
"Kayla," he choked, "I need you." That sentence used to make my heart soften. This time, something in me tightened instead.
"What's wrong?" I leaned against the counter. "Are you okay?"
"It's Mia," his voice cracked. "She got arrested last night."
Of course it was Mia. His younger sister, professional disaster. Third job in 2 years, fired from all of them. Drunk calls at midnight. Crashes with his parents whenever she got evicted from yet another shared apartment. The kind of person who turned every family group chat into a siren.
"What happened?" I asked, even though I already felt the shape of it forming.
DUI, he said, third offense, and some other stuff, resisting or whatever. Bail is 15 grand. The number hung there between us, heavier than the coffee mug in my hand. 15,000, I repeated.
"Yeah, my parents—" He sighed. "They don't have it. They scraped together everything for her last time. They're tapped out." There was a beat of silence. I heard it before he said it. "Can you help?" he asked. "Can we help?"
I mentally opened our spreadsheet. Wedding fund, house down payment, emergency savings. I wasn't stingy. We'd already talked about helping his family when we could. But 15 grand?
"We could probably do 1,000, I said slowly.
"Maybe 1,500 if we cut back this month. But that's it. Daniel, we're not sitting on free money." The quiet on the line shifted, less shaky, more calculating.
"That won't be enough," he said. "She needs all of it."
"I'm sorry, but we don't have all of it." "Yes, we do," he snapped. "You do."
My stomach dipped.
"Daniel, what are you talking about?"
"Your car." I actually laughed because that sounded like a bad joke.
"My car?" I echoed. "It's worth what, 28,000? He rushed on. "You checked the quotes last month. If you sold it, we could cover Mia's bail and still have money left over. You can get something cheaper, a used Civic or whatever." I stared out the window at the shimmer of silver paint in the parking lot. That car had 3 years of extra hours, skipped vacations, and side gigs built into every curve. I'd bought it before I even met Daniel. Paid it off early. It was the first thing in my life that was entirely mine. "You want me," I said carefully, "to sell my car, to bail out your sister from her third DUI? "It's just a car, Kayla," his tone sharpened. "Family is more important." "It's how I get to work," I said. "It's my car, and we're talking about your sister, who keeps making the same choices over and over."
He exhaled, frustrated. "So your car is more important than my sister's freedom?"
There it was, the emotional trap, sprung with one sentence.
I set the mug down before I dropped it.
"That's not what I said," I replied. "I said I'm not selling my car. We can help with 1,000. Your parents can ask other relatives, but that's my limit."
Silence. It stretched long enough for my heartbeat to become the loudest thing in the room.
Then, "If you don't do this," Daniel said, every word suddenly cold, "we're done." I actually pulled the phone away from my ear for a second, staring at the screen as if the words might look different written there.
"Excuse me," I said.
"You heard me," he shot back. "I need a partner who will put my family first. If you can't do that, there's no point in us getting married." 4 years of birthdays, movie nights, fights and makeups, plans, whispered confessions in the dark, reduced to a price tag and a threat. I felt something quiet fall into place inside me.
"Then we're done," I said.
He sounded like I'd slapped him. "What?" "You said if I didn't sell my car, we were done. I'm not selling my car." My voice surprised me, steady, almost calm. "So we're done. You can pick up your stuff from my place this week. I'll have it boxed up."
"Kayla, don't be ridiculous. You're overreacting."
"I'm upset. I didn't mean—"
"You meant it enough to say it," I cut in. "You made the terms very clear. I'm just agreeing to them."
"I can't believe you're throwing away 4 years over this," he snarled.
"You just did," I said softly.
"Bye, Daniel."
I hung up. My hand shook as I set the phone down, but it was done. I stood in the middle of my tiny kitchen, heart pounding, listening to the clock tick and the fridge hum, wondering if I'd just made the biggest mistake of my life or barely dodged the biggest one. 10 minutes later, after the shock wore off enough for my brain to reboot, I went to the bedroom and pulled the little velvet box out of my nightstand drawer. The engagement ring glinted up at me, diamond catching the light. $4,200, paid in careful installments, because he'd wanted to do it right. I turned it between my fingers and thought about a third DUI, a $15,000 bail, and a man who thought my worth as a partner could be measured in how quickly I'd sacrifice my stability for his sister's bad choices. I snapped the box shut, walked to the hall closet, and slid it into my safe. If he wanted that ring back, he could take that up with the refund counter. The rest of the day passed in a blur. I blocked his number before I could second-guess myself. I dragged out empty cardboard boxes, started gathering the evidence of him that had slowly migrated into my space. A few t-shirts in my dresser, his electric razor in my bathroom, a stack of books he kept promising to read, his favorite mug with a chipped handle. Every item I packed felt like rewinding time, layering my life back before he'd seeped into every corner of it. Sunday morning, the doorbell rang. I checked the peephole and saw exactly what I expected. Daniel on the landing, eyes red, jaw clenched tight. Beside him, his mother, arms folded, mouth already pinched in disapproval. I left the chain on and cracked the door. "Kayla, open the door," she said at once. "We need to talk." "We can talk like this," I replied. Her gaze was icy. "How can you abandon my son like this? 4 years together, and you throw him away over money?" My hand tightened on the doorframe. "I didn't abandon anyone," I said. "Daniel gave me an ultimatum. I chose not to sell my car to bail out Mia. Those were his terms, not mine." Daniel looked wrecked. "Kayla, please, I was panicking. Mia was in jail. I wasn't thinking clearly." "You were thinking clearly enough to tell me we were over if I didn't do what you wanted," I said. "I believed you." His mother scoffed. "You're being selfish. Family helps family." "Family also stops enabling someone who keeps driving drunk," I shot back. "Mia's situation is a result of her choices. You want to help her? Get her a lawyer and a rehab program. Stop expecting me to burn down my life to save hers." Daniel flinched. "We can fix this," he insisted. "Just sell the car. We'll figure out another down payment later." "No," I said. "There's nothing to fix. You can come by tomorrow between 5 and 7 to get your things. Alone. I won't open the door if you bring anyone." His mother's voice went shrill. "You're throwing away a good man!" "Maybe he'll find someone willing to sell off everything she owns on command," I replied. "I'm just not that woman." I closed the door before she could spit out another word. On Monday, he came by alone. He looked smaller somehow, shoulders slumped, like the ultimatum had deflated along with his pride. I'd already stacked his boxes by the door. "Kayla," he started, staring at me like he could rewind the last 48 hours with his eyes. "Can we talk, please?" "There's nothing to talk about," I said. "Your stuff is right here." "I made a mistake," he said quickly. "I was scared for Mia. I didn't think you'd actually end things." "That's the problem," I said. "You thought you could say something that cruel and there wouldn't be consequences." He swallowed. His eyes dropped to my left hand, bare now. "Can I at least have the ring?" he asked. "I could sell it to help with bail." I laughed, sharp and humorless. "No, you can't." "That's not fair," he protested. "I paid for that ring." "You paid for it," I agreed, "just like I paid for my car. You wanted me to sell my car, remember? Life's not fair. Ask your sister." His jaw clenched. For a flicker of a second, I saw past the hurt to something uglier, entitlement, anger at being told no. I opened the door wider. "Take your things, Daniel. We're done." He carried the boxes out to his car, tears streaming silently down his face. I didn't help. I stood in the doorway and watched 4 years drive away in the space of 3 trips to the parking lot. When he was finished, he turned back one last time. "I love you," he said desperately. "Doesn't that mean anything?" "It used to," I answered, until I realized it came with terms and conditions. He left without another word. The next day, I went to the jeweler. I stood under the harsh lights, the ring between us on the glass counter. The saleswoman gave me a sympathetic look as she examined it, tapping numbers into her computer. "We can do 2,800, she said finally. "Market's down a bit." 4,200, down to 2,800 in less than a year. Just like my engagement. "I'll take it," I said. As I walked out, the envelope of cash tucked into my bag, I felt lighter and sad all at once, like I'd just amputated something infected. I told myself the worst was over. I had my car, I had my savings, I had my life back. What I didn't know was that while I was counting bills and telling myself I'd made it through the storm, someone else was already using my name to open a door to an entirely new kind of nightmare. 3 days later, my phone rang in the middle of a boring spreadsheet. I work in operations for a logistics company, glamorous in the way that watching paint dry is glamorous. I was at my desk, half listening to a podcast, when an unknown number flashed across my screen. Normally, I let those go to voicemail. This time, for reasons I still can't explain, I answered. Hello? Hi, is this Ms. Kayla Monroe? A male voice asked. Calm, official. Yes, this is Kayla. This is Officer Ramirez with the City Police Department. Do you have a few minutes to talk? My heart stuttered. I racked my brain. Did I speed? Did someone hit my car in the lot? Yeah, I said, already sitting up straighter. Is something wrong? We're investigating a fraud and potential identity theft case, he said. A credit card company flagged an application in your name as suspicious. I just need to ask you a few questions. I gripped the edge of my desk. A what in my name? A credit card, ma'am, he repeated. Paper rustled on his end. Opened 3 days ago, with a $5,000 limit. It's been maxed out. The room went weirdly tunnel quiet. The clicking of keyboards, the low hum of office conversation, all of it dimmed. I didn't open any credit cards, I said. I haven't applied for any in years. That's what we thought, he replied. The card issuer flagged it as potential fraud and contacted us. We'd like you to come down to the station today, if possible, to confirm some details and file a report. Yeah, I heard myself say. Okay, I can come in after lunch. Great. I'll text you the address and my name so you know who to ask for. We hung up. I stared at my phone, at the normal little home screen, and felt this creeping cold wash over me. Someone had my name, my social security number, enough of me to pretend to be me. For a second, I wondered if this was some karmic punishment for not selling my car. That's how twisted my brain had gotten living in Daniel's world, where everything was a moral test of how far you'd go for his family. I told my boss there was a personal emergency and drove to the station, fingers tight on the steering wheel, eyes flicking to the rearview mirror like I expected to see blue lights at any moment. Inside, Officer Ramirez met me in a small, bland interview room that smelled faintly of coffee and old paper. He slid a manila folder across the table. This is the application, he said. Can you look it over and confirm what is and isn't yours? I opened it and my chest squeezed. My name, my address, my date of birth, my social security number. None of my handwriting. The employer listed was correct. The income number was close. The signature at the bottom was a messy attempt at my name, like someone had seen it once and faked it from memory. But it wasn't my information that really made the bottom drop out. It was the address listed for the card's mailing address. A neat little street name and number I knew very, very well. Daniel's parents' house. My mouth went dry. Do you recognize that address? Ramirez asked. Yes, I said slowly. It belongs to my ex-fiancé's parents. My ex used to live there on and off. His sister still does. And you didn't authorize anyone to use your identity? He asked. No, I said, absolutely not. He nodded, took notes. Have you given your social security number or other personal information to anyone in that household? I hesitated, then cursed myself for hesitating. My ex, Daniel, I said. I texted him my SSN once for some insurance paperwork he said he needed help with. He said he'd delete it afterward. Ramirez's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes sharpened. Do you still have that text? He asked. I don't know. I'd have to check. I blocked him recently. Understood. He slid another paper toward me. We'll need you to sign this statement. I also recommend you contact all 3 major credit bureaus today, place a fraud alert, and consider freezing your credit. We've already confirmed there were attempts to open additional cards in your name, but they were denied when the first one was flagged. Attempts? I echoed. He flipped another page. Looks like 2 other applications. Both denied. Same address, same pattern. I swallowed hard. So someone, I said, took my information, opened a card, maxed it out, and used Daniel's parents' house as a drop point? That's what it looks like, Ramirez said. We'll be speaking to everyone at that address. In the meantime, keep an eye on your bank accounts and any other financial statements. You'll likely get calls from other institutions as the fraud alert spreads through the system. I signed what he needed me to sign, hands trembling just enough that the pen shook. When I left the station, the sunlight outside felt too bright, too normal. The first thing I did in my car was open a credit monitoring app I'd barely touched before. There it was. The fake account, the hard inquiries, the little dings in my score. Someone had taken a sledgehammer to a problem I'd spent years carefully chiseling into shape. I drove home on autopilot, parked, and spent the next 2 hours on the phone. Credit bureaus, banks, fraud departments. Every call started with the same exhausting explanation. No, that's not my account. Yes, that's my name. No, I didn't authorize it. By late afternoon, my voice was hoarse, my brain fried. That's when my phone lit up again. Daniel. I'd unblocked him temporarily to coordinate his box pickup and never reblocked. That small oversight slid in now like a knife. For a second, I almost declined. Then anger, hot and sharp, beat out avoidance. I answered. What do you want? I said no hello. We need to talk, he blurted. He sounded wrecked. It's important. About what? Just please, can I come over? 10 minutes, that's all I'm asking. Every instinct screamed no. Against my better judgment, I sighed. Fine. 10 minutes. Alone. If you bring anyone, I'm not opening the door. He showed up 20 minutes later. Of course. He looked worse than the last time. Eyes red-rimmed, dark circles, hair unwashed. For a moment, an old reflex tugged at me, the one that wanted to smooth his hair down and tell him it would be okay. I crushed it. I left the chain on and opened the door a crack. You have 8 minutes now, I said. You're late. He flinched at my tone. Someone opened a credit card in my name, he blurted. I froze. What? A credit card, he said. I got a call from some company this morning. They said I owed $8,000. I thought it was a scam, but then they read my social, my address, everything. They said it was open 3 days ago and maxed out. They're telling me I'm responsible until the investigation is done. I can't pay that, Kayla. I don't have $8,000. I stared at him, feeling reality click into an ugly new shape. Yeah, I said slowly. Someone opened a card in my name too. He blinked. What? I opened the door a little wider, just enough that he could see my expression. $5,000, I said. Opened 3 days ago, maxed out. The address on the application? Your parents' house. His face went slack. Who would... Daniel, I said. Really? We just stared at each other for a long beat. Mia, I said. He shook his head automatically, the denial reflexive. No, she's in jail. Is she? I asked. He faltered. Call your mom, I said. Put it on speaker. He hesitated, then dug out his phone and dialed. His mother picked up on the second ring. Hi, honey, she said, sounding tired. How are you holding up? Mom, is Mia still in jail? Daniel asked without preamble. There was a pause. No, she got out Tuesday, his mother said. We got a bail bondsman. The family scraped together $2,500 for the fee. Why? Daniel's eyes widened. Nothing, he said, voice thin. I'll call you back. He hung up and looked at me like he was suddenly seeing me in a new light and hating what that light revealed. She stole our identities, I said quietly. Yours, mine, probably your parents too, as soon as she got out. It can't be, he whispered. She wouldn't. She absolutely would, I snapped. She drove drunk 3 times, Daniel. You think she has some moral line about paperwork? He pressed his palms to his eyes like he could erase the truth. This is bad, he muttered. This is so bad. My credit, I can't get approved for anything as it is. If this sticks... I've already filed a police report, I cut in. The detective said they'd be talking to everyone at your parents' address. You need to file your own report today. You already called the cops? He demanded, looking almost offended. Yes, I said, because someone stole my identity. That's a crime, in case you forgot. This isn't some family drama you can smooth over with a group chat and a guilt trip. His mouth opened, closed. She's sick, he said finally, grasping for the script he knew. She has problems. And you've all been enabling those problems, I shot back. This is what that looks like when it grows teeth. He stared at me like I was the cruel one. Kayla, they're talking about putting this on my credit until it's resolved. I can't... Sounds like a personal problem, I said. The same words he'd thrown at me in different forms 100 times. You should go to the station like I did, file a report, get a fraud alert. You're really not going to help me? He asked, incredulous. After everything we've been through? Help you how? I demanded. Sell my car? Pay off the debt your sister racked up with stolen information she got because you stored my social in your phone like a grocery list? I didn't know she'd do this, he said, voice cracking. That's the point, I said. You never think about consequences until they're already on fire. He flinched like I'd struck him. Mia is facing prison, he whispered. Real prison. If I don't what? I stepped fully into the doorway now, no chain between us. Drop the charges? Pretend someone else filled out that application? Your sister stole from me, Daniel. She tried to wreck my credit, my future, because of information you kept on your phone. He swallowed hard. Shame flickered across his face, quickly smothered by desperation. "We were going to get married," he said. "Doesn't that count for something?" "It used to," I said, "until you made my boundaries negotiable and my life collateral." His shoulders sagged. "So that's it? You're just done?" "I was done when you chose your sister's third DUI over our relationship," I said quietly. "This is just the universe backing me up." I stepped back and put my hand on the door. "Go file your report, Daniel," I said. "Fix your credit. Deal with your family. This is your mess now. I've already started cleaning up mine." "Kayla, please." "Get out," I said, voice flat, "or I call the same officer who took my statement and let him know you're harassing me at my home." He stared at me for another second, like he was waiting for the old version of me to show up, the one who would soften, compromise, offer to help. She didn't. He turned and walked down the hall, steps heavy. I closed the door and locked it. For a moment, I leaned my forehead against the wood and let the weight of everything press in. The fraud alerts, the phone calls, the way his eyes had gone glassy when he realized his sister had stolen from him too. Then I straightened up, wiped my face, and went back to my laptop. I spent the rest of the evening printing confirmation emails, organizing a folder labeled Identity Theft, and making a list of every account I needed to watch. I thought the worst had already happened. I had no idea the real fallout hadn't even started yet. My apartment used to be a quiet place. Even after the breakup, it felt like neutral ground, a space where I could sit, breathe, and recalibrate my thoughts without someone else's chaos bleeding into the corners. But after the identity theft, silence didn't feel peaceful anymore. It felt loaded, waiting, watching, like the calm before a bomb detonates. And the bomb arrived 2 days later. I was brushing my teeth when my phone buzzed nonstop on the bathroom counter. Unknown numbers, 3 in a row, then a fourth, then a voicemail notification. I spat toothpaste, wiped my mouth, and hit play. A woman's frantic voice filled the room. Daniel's mother. "Kayla, this is Rebecca. You need to call us back. It's urgent. It's about Mia. Please." I stiffened. "Not my problem," I reminded myself. I didn't call back. 5 minutes later, there was pounding at my door. Not knocking, pounding. I froze mid-step. I already knew who it was. I approached slowly, keeping the chain latched as I looked through the peephole. Daniel's parents. Both of them. His mother was red-faced from crying. His father looked furious in that silent, barely contained way that made you understand exactly how Daniel learned to weaponize disappointment. I didn't open the door. "Kayla, open this door right now," his father barked. "No," I said through the wood. "Whatever this is, it's not my problem." "It is your problem," his mother cried. "She's been arrested again. They're talking prison time, the real kind, not county jail. You need to help us." I blinked slowly. Why would I do that? Silence. Then his mother said something that actually made me laugh. "We need you to drop the charges." I unlocked the deadbolt, opened the door, just enough to see their faces, and stared at them. "You want me," I said slowly, "to drop the identity theft charges against your daughter, the daughter who stole thousands of dollars under my name, who destroyed my credit, who opened accounts at your address, who also stole from your entire household." "We know she made mistakes," his mother whispered. "Mistakes?" I repeated. "A mistake is forgetting to pay a bill. Identity theft is a felony." His father stepped forward, palms up in a mock reasonable gesture. "Look, we all know this started because you refused to help her. If you had supported Daniel like a partner should..." Ah, there it was. The real agenda. Shame, guilt. Rewrite the story so I'm the villain instead of the only person in this mess with functioning boundaries. "Let me stop you right there," I said. But he kept going. "None of this would have happened. If you hadn't provoked her by walking out on the engagement, she wouldn't be desperate." I actually laughed. "Your daughter didn't steal my identity because I broke off an engagement," I said. "She stole it because she's a criminal who keeps being protected from consequences." His father's expression tightened into something darker. "We're asking you nicely, Kayla. Drop the charges." "And I'm telling you no. We're trying to keep our family from falling apart." "Your family fell apart long before I ever got here," I said calmly. "I'm just choosing not to get dragged into the collapse." His mother sobbed harder. "But she'll go to prison." "That sounds like a her problem." "You're heartless," his father snapped. "No," I said. "I'm done being your family ATM." The man took a threatening half-step forward. I shut the door in their faces and locked every bolt. Then I stood there, pulse hammering, and breathed until the shaking stopped. I should have expected everything that happened next, but it still blindsided me. Because for all the entitlement, all the guilt-tripping, all the manipulation I'd already seen from that family, I wasn't prepared for the escalation. 2 days later, the prosecutor called me.
Miss Monroe, we've arrested the suspect, Mia Hernandez, in connection to your identity theft case.
Just hearing her name made my chest tighten. Yes, I figured she was involved, I said.
She didn't just target you, the prosecutor continued. She stole from multiple parties. Your ex-fiancé, his parents, and according to her own statements, one of her cousins. Total fraudulent charges exceed $22,000.
$22,000. I sank into a dining chair.
She used your information, he went on, because she found your social security number stored in a notes app on your ex-fiancé's phone. Our report indicates Daniel gave her access when she borrowed his phone the night before her arrest.
I closed my eyes.
Of course he had. He always handed his phone to her. She always had some crisis to solve, and I trusted him.
This case is moving toward formal charges, the prosecutor continued. We may contact you again for a victim impact statement. I thanked him, hung up,
then sat there for a full 10 minutes staring at nothing.
My life had become a crime podcast. That evening, Daniel showed up at my door again. This time I didn't answer. He yelled through the wood anyway.
Kayla, please, please, my credit's ruined. They won't stop calling me. I owe $8,000. I can't get approved for anything.
Not my problem. But he kept going, voice cracking.
I talked to the investigator. They said you're one of the primary victims. If you talk to them, maybe they'll go easier on her.
I opened the door 1 inch.
Daniel, I said, voice flat, you need to stop coming here. He looked smashed, frail, his pride ground down to dust.
She's sick, he whispered. She needs help. She needs consequences, I said. Help comes after that.
He shook his head, eyes glassy. We were supposed to get married.
And then you gave me an ultimatum, I reminded him. Remember?
He swallowed.
I let the silence sit, heavy and sharp. You want something from me? I said finally. Say it.
His throat bobbed. Will you drop the charges?
There it was.
No, I said. Kayla, please. My parents took out a loan to cover my credit debt. They're drowning.
That's between you and your family.
You don't understand, he said, voice rising. We're all suffering because of this. I understand perfectly, I said. You're suffering because your sister committed crimes, and your family protected her long enough for her to learn she never has to stop.
He opened his mouth.
I shut the door,
locked it, deadbolted it.
Let him stand there.
Let him cry.
Let him finally realize that actions, even his, have weight. And then I did something just as important. I sat on my couch, opened my email, and typed a message to the prosecutor documenting the visit. 10 minutes later, I had a reply confirming they'd added it to the case file.
Do not hesitate to request a restraining order if the contact continues, the prosecutor wrote.
That sentence didn't scare me. It steadied me. The next week was a blur of paperwork, credit alerts, fraud reports, and calls from detectives clarifying details. I kept every receipt, every letter, every notice.
Meanwhile, Daniel kept trying.
Different numbers, new email addresses, long messages about how he couldn't sleep, how everything was falling apart, how I was the only person who could fix it.
And the final line of almost every message,
if you ever loved me, you'll do this.
I didn't respond.
Because I did love him once.
And now I was learning what love looks like when it's not twisted into obligation.
The next message he sent, I answered with a single sentence. You gave me an ultimatum. I made my choice. Stop contacting me. Then I blocked the number. All of them. For the first time in weeks, I felt something like oxygen fill my lungs.
But the story wasn't over. Not even close.
Because soon, I'd find myself standing in a courtroom, staring directly at the consequences Mia never believed she'd face. And Daniel, along with the people who raised him, would finally see what accountability actually looks like. The sentencing hearing was scheduled for a Thursday morning.
I took the day off work, though I didn't tell anyone the real reason. My boss probably assumed it was a dentist appointment or one of the endless credit bureau follow-up calls.
In a way, I wished it were something that simple.
Courtrooms always look the same in TV dramas. Mahogany benches, flags, bored bailiffs. But in real life, they smell faintly of old carpet and anxiety. When I walked in, the fluorescent lighting was unforgiving, painting everyone in flat, washed-out tones.
Daniel was already there.
So were his parents. They sat in a tight little row, 2 benches from the front, united by shared misery and a shared refusal to recognize where that misery actually came from. Daniel's mother looked hollow, his father furious in a quiet, simmering way. And Daniel, he looked older, smaller, like the months since our breakup had scraped something out of him. None of them acknowledged me when I took my seat, but I felt their eyes, especially his mother's, accusation disguised as grief. To her, this wasn't Mia's fault. It wasn't the fault of decades of enabling, of sweeping consequences under the rug. No, this was my fault, the outsider who refused to sacrifice herself at the altar of their dysfunction. The bailiff called the room to order. Then they brought Mia in. She looked nothing like the whirlwind of destruction she'd left behind. Her hair was pulled back in a bland ponytail, and her orange jumpsuit hung loose on her frame. She didn't look dangerous. She looked tired, defeated, like the world had finally stopped bending around her. Her eyes scanned the courtroom and landed on me. For a flicker of a second, something passed between us. Not apology, not guilt, recognition. I was the boundary she couldn't break, the one person she couldn't manipulate, steal from, or charm her way past. The judge read the charges: identity theft, credit fraud, forgery, probation violation, felony counts, stacked like a tower she had built with her own hands. Then came the part I had been dreading. "Ms. Monroe," the judge said, "would you like to give a victim impact statement?" I stood, smoothed the front of my blazer, and walked to the podium. My heart wasn't racing. Surprisingly, I wasn't nervous. I felt grounded, like the months of chaos had sharpened something inside me. "Your Honor," I began, "my name is Kayla Monroe. I'm here because my identity was stolen." I could feel Daniel's parents staring holes through the back of my head. "Let them." "Mia didn't just open a credit card in my name," I continued. "She used information she should never have had access to, information I trusted my partner with. She damaged my credit, cost me hundreds of dollars, and turned my life into a maze of phone calls and fear." I paused, letting the silence settle. I spent weeks wondering what else might show up, what accounts she might have opened, what debt she might have hidden under my name. I lost sleep. I missed work. I lived with the anxiety of not knowing which version of me was out there in the world spending money I didn't have. The judge nodded. I took a breath. "I'm not here to punish anyone out of spite. I'm here because actions have consequences. I hope Mia gets the help she needs. But I also hope she learns that the world doesn't exist to absorb the fallout of her choices. Not mine, not her family's, not anyone's." When I finished, the judge thanked me, and I sat down. Daniel didn't look at me. His mother did. Hatred, pure, undiluted hatred. But beneath it, fear. Fear of losing control. Fear of losing the scapegoat they'd always used to justify why nothing was ever their fault. The judge delivered the sentence with the bluntness of a gavel strike. 4 years in state prison. 3 years supervised probation after release. Mandatory restitution. $22,700 divided among the victims. Financial counseling. Substance abuse treatment. Gasps rippled through the room. Daniel's mother broke, full sobs. His father clenched his jaw so hard I could see the muscle twitching from 2 benches away. Mia didn't cry. She just stared straight ahead, absorbing the reality she'd never thought she'd face. As court adjourned, the bailiff moved to escort her away. She glanced back one more time, at her family, at me, at the debris field of her choices. Then she was gone. Outside the courtroom, I didn't linger. But of course, Daniel's mother made a beeline for me, shoving her way past the bailiff. "This is your fault," she hissed, mascara streaked down her cheeks. "You destroyed her life." A security officer intercepted her before she got too close. I stared at her, not angry, not shaken, just tired. "No," I said, "she destroyed her life. I just refused to join her." The officer gently guided her back toward her husband. She kept crying, kept calling me heartless, selfish, cruel. For the first time, none of it stuck. I walked out of the courthouse into bright sunlight, breathing fully for what felt like the first time in months. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel vindictive. I felt clean, like something heavy had finally been cut loose. Weeks passed. Slowly, the fraud disappeared from my credit report. The investigations closed. The accounts were wiped. My monitoring alerts went quiet. One afternoon, I drove my Challenger, my perfect, stubborn, beautiful Challenger, to the grocery store. As I parked, I caught my reflection in the side mirror. I didn't look like a victim. I looked like someone who had survived something and come out sharper. When I exited the car, a man waiting beside his sedan smiled at me. "Nice ride," he said. I grinned. "Thanks. Worked hard for it." "Always respect that," he replied. "Independence is attractive." Turned out he was my coworker's friend, the blind date she'd mentioned weeks earlier. We ended up grabbing coffee right then, sitting on a bench outside the store, talking for nearly an hour. It was easy, natural, no pressure. When he asked if I'd like to go out again, I heard myself say yes, with a lightness I hadn't felt in years. 3 days later, I received a letter. Handwritten, 5 pages, from Daniel. He'd started therapy. He'd realized he'd been codependent, reactive, unfair. He'd finally understood why I walked away. He missed me. He wanted another chance. He wanted to prove he could be the man I deserved. I read the first page. Then I fed the rest into a shredder. I replied from a Google Voice number with a single text. I'm glad you're getting help, but we're done. Stop contacting me. This is your final warning before I file for a restraining order. His reply came back quickly. I understand. I'm sorry for everything. I hope you find happiness. It was the first honest, boundary-respecting message he'd ever sent me. And the last, I'm not naive. I know healing isn't a straight line. Some days I still replay that phone call, the one where Daniel said, "Sell your car or we're done." But now I see it for what it truly was. Not a tragedy. A blessing. A shortcut out of a life where my value would always be weighed against someone else's chaos. I kept my car. I kept my dignity. I kept my future. And I lost nothing worth keeping.